So let's start with our first centralized authentication configuration. Now this is going to be local to, when we say local, I'm going to say wireless LAN controller. Our wireless LAN controller is going to act as the authentication server. Now this authentication server is going to use EAP, okay, Extensible Authentication Protocol, for authentication to our wireless LAN controller. A lot of you guys are aware of using an external radius server for this type of authentication. You can use the local wireless LAN controller to do this. Even the lowly 2500 series can do this type of configuration. So let's look at this. This is perfect for a branch or small office out there in the sticks that you're setting up for your organization. So how do we start this? Well, first off, we're going to configure the local net users. Okay, this is going to be your database of users. Much like in a radius server, you're pointing to a LDAP or Open Directory server that actually brings in those users and their passwords. You're going to have to actually create that yourself now. Okay, so you're actually going to create wireless LAN controller user or whoever, create their passwords and everything as a part of the database. So you, as an administrator, unfortunately, have to create the database. Much more work than connecting to an external server. Next up, you're going to have to come up with local EAP policies, right? What are you doing? A profile for this particular implementation. And then you're going to have to choose your EAP profile. What are you using for that authentication? Are you using LEAP, EAP-FAST, ETLS, or PEEP? Remember, if you're having trouble with those particular terms, go back to the security course. We dove into each one of those very, very deeply in that particular lesson. So let's take a look at my environment and see what this actually looks like for a wireless LAN controller. So here I'm all over the place. What we really need to look at right now is, let's go back to this AAA and let's go down to our local net users. We have to start defining the users for this wireless LAN controller. Now we can have quite a few users, but let's create a user. Let's create the user Russ. And let's say the password for Russ is this. I'm not going to say that out loud. And this. Is it a guest user? No, that's not a guest user. So we don't have to check that box. We don't have to define them to a guest VLAN. Wireless LAN profile. If we don't have a wireless LAN profile, or we want to stick them to a particular wireless LAN, that's where we would do this. We would say this is a pseudo user. No, an employee accounting, something like that, like you would do in your LDAP. So we have this set up. We're going to go ahead and apply this. Now we have a user, and unfortunately, this is where the rubber meets the road for this type of implementation. I have to do this for every single user. I want to be authenticated to this particular wireless LAN or that particular profile. So now let's look at local EAP. Let's actually create a profile for this this particular user. We have a local EAP profile, local authentication already. I'm going to put in a new one, right? Let's do a new local EAP profile. Let's call this employees. And employees, we're going to apply that. It's going to ask me, employees are going to do what? How are they going to be authentication? Let's say PEEP. They're going to authenticate through PEEP. That's good. We click apply here. And now we can see that we have these profiles. I can go back to my actual user login policies. See that we have the number of connected logins for username. That's good. Let's look at our local net users. Let's look at Russ. And we can see any wireless LAN profile. I don't want that, right? Let's stick him on the wireless LAN that we're using. So the only access to lab, right? And we click apply. Now we have the actual description matching the wireless LAN profile. So when Russ logs on, he's going to be moved to the lab wireless LAN. That's the profile that he's going to be using.